suddenly you decide to go IPO finally.
Right.
And like, what finally was that moment? What gave you courage? And what is those 3 years of post-IPO felt like?
Would I have, for a wine company, does it make sense to be public? I think the jury's out on that.
Switching gears a bit, it seems like your first equity believer was our common friend, Deepak Shahdat.
Absolutely.
And he stuck, with you for all the way till the IPO. What did he see?
And he's still on board.
Okay.
He's still on board, yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
What did he see that nobody else did? And were you surprised by even getting equity funding back then, institutional equity?
Yeah, well, we met. He had gone to INSEAD with a friend of mine, and their whole group came over to India, and I led the trip to Goa.
Okay.
And we bonded. We had a great time, and we realized we were so, sort of well-matched, and we became instant fast friends. And then he told me that he was getting, he had left his previous sort of corporate life behind, getting into venture capital. It was an extremely interesting time, and he was very excited to invest. He saw India as an amazing sunrise happening, and he was looking for small consumer brands to invest in India. And I had never heard that until then. He was probably the first VC that I got to know personally. And he thought I was crazy when I told him at that time that I'm looking to build a winery, because I think I had not even produced the first bottle then.
Okay.
We brought out our first bottle. We made it in 99 and sold it in 2000. I needed 1 year to get the permissions from the government to sell that bottle, by the way. Just imagine the lows that I went to at that time. You were asking about lows. That was a very low time.
Yeah.
98, 99, 2000, trying to get the state government to give us the license, etc. It was crazy. But so Deepak came, saw, he thought I was crazy, but then he said, okay, he tasted the first wine. He said, wow. This is amazing. And then I think about a year after that, after we produced our first wine, in about 2002, we started talking. 2003, we signed the paper. So it was way, way early on in the journey of VCs and PE.
Correct.
I think PE was not yet a word there.
Yeah.
It was VCs.
Yeah.
And VCs investing into small consumer brands in India. Deepak might have been the first.
Yeah, it was very, very early, very prescient, and of course, long, patient wait.
Yeah,
And
I wish I had better counsel at that time. I always look back and think, Deepak, I gave you probably too much of the company at first shot.
It was brutal. Valuations were brutal pre-2010.
Right.
I think the world of venture changed in favor
But we
of
needed the money. We were ready to grow so fast. We had got then the regulations changed.
Yeah.
And I just saw this bonanza. And Deepak said to me, you need the money. You can't borrow anymore at 18%.
No,
this money is free.
As you said,
he said, you need this money to
feels
grow.
That way, but yeah, eventually.
Don't give up this moment.
Yeah.
So we said, okay, fine. I signed on. We took it. We never looked back. And we grew exponentially. We had double-digit growth years, which in wine is very difficult. And I think it was the right thing to do.
Cut over to suddenly you decide to go IPO finally.
Right.
And it's not easy for both an F&B company and especially in alcohol to there's
especially
a little bit
in
of
wine,
stigma.
especially in wine.
Wine and,
right.
Even I know shareholders who say, I won't buy those stocks. And what finally was that moment? What gave you courage? And what is those 3 years of post-IPO felt like? Does it feel like the right decision? I know you didn't need money. I think this was all offer for sale, right? You didn't even raise money, I think.
That's right. Me personally, yeah.
Yeah. So what was the thought process about doing it finally? And what does that 2-3 year journey feel like? Because now, finally, we're seeing Indian startup entrepreneurs,
right,
much like yourself, but much younger, finally getting the courage to say, hey, we can keep building this for 10, 20 years.
Sure.
Who's to stop us?
Sure.
So, and that public is a good inflection point.
Sure. So this was a joint decision.
Okay.
After Deepak, we had a series of private equity investors. And then finally, Verlinvest, who came on board a long time ago saying that, we're going to be long-term. We'll be on board for at least 5 years. 14 years later, we sat down. They said, Rajeev, we've enjoyed the journey. And we did. We had a great relationship during that time. Hats off to them. They said, it's time.
Yeah.
It's time for us to exit. We've been on board 14 years. That's way, way, way longer than we'd ever thought.
Yeah.
We have to exit. And frankly speaking, IPO is going to be the best way for us to realize the kind of valuation. At this point, to try to bring on a strategic, etc., probably not going to go. You guys, we'd already been working on our compliance, on our governance, etc.
Yeah.
Already was top notch. She said, you guys are almost ready. Let's do this. So I said, sure, let's do this. I must say that I had a secondary role in the decision.
Yeah.
The primary decision was our private equity guys, who at that point had close to 50% equity in the company, and mine was less than 25%. So and they had a tag and drag, and so you know what all that means.
Yeah.
So but I didn't argue. I said, sure, let's do this. It's the next stage. And so we went public December 22.
Yeah.
Very difficult time when you look back.
Yes.
23 became a much better time after about sort of,
There was a slump in 22. Yeah.
Yes. So
Very
after
brave.
the second half of 23 was a bonanza and 24 was a bonanza. But late 22, we were gutsy. We went out there. Didn't necessarily get the valuation that we were expecting at the beginning. But then looking back, the bankers also know a thing or two.
Yeah.
And when you talk about consumer, etc., bread and butter consumer, not tech and, fintech and all that, they know what they're talking about. So when I look back, I say, hey, they weren't so wrong.
Equalizes over a period of time. Anyway.
Absolutely. They weren't so wrong in terms of valuation. And I must say, I look back with pride that it was a successful IPO. And for a couple of years, it was great because our private equity guys all got off. I did not. I've stayed
Always
on.
happens, yeah.
Yeah. I probably have a 1% or 2% less stake than I did at that time. So now I'm very much the primary shareholder, the promoter.
Yeah.
Looking back, would I have, for a wine company, does it make sense to be public? I think the jury's out on that.
Okay.
I think the jury's out on that. But were we in a position to continue going for some time? At the end of the day, a company has to go by the decisions of its board, of its main shareholders, et cetera. And so, that was a pact we had made with I won't say that. But, back then, that was the pact, that when you take money from private equity, then the exit happens when the private equity wants it to happen.
Yeah,
and hence, so we went public. Looking back, I'm not sure that wine companies are 100% suited in that thing, because to show quarterly results,
very tough.
When you have projects, you have a wine under development right now that's going to take 5 years from the
2-3 year
time.
product development cycles, and you're actually
Now, then you find yourself sometimes thinking of shortcuts, etc., which is not for the best when you're building a long-term brand. So you got to grit it out when the times are a bit tougher. Know that what you're doing is going to pay off in the medium long term. Have your eyes on that prize and just stick with it.
So 2-3 themes to sort of ease into the finale of the podcast. One, I think, is alcohol is any which way a taboo business as far as regulations and government.
But
and
becoming much less so recently in the past 2 or 3 years.
Would you say, Rajeev?
I would say after Sula went public, maybe that also had something to do with it. It's being seen much more as a legitimate business, a legitimate Indian success story. States are starting to realize there's always been a schizophrenic sort of a position.
It's a great revenue earner. So
it is the number one revenue earner for a lot of states.
That's correct.
But on the other hand, they see it as the sort of the golden goose and guys like almost semi-criminals, Now that is starting to go away.
Yeah.
People who have built legitimate alcobev companies, are no longer seen in that way. They are seen, even though the regulations might not have changed that much.
The views and opinions expressed in this content are for informational purposes only and do not constitute investment, legal, tax, or accounting advice, nor an offer or solicitation to buy or sell securities. References to companies, transactions, or market events are illustrative only and should not be construed as endorsements or statements of value. Any views expressed by individuals are solely their own and do not represent those of Blume Ventures, its affiliates, partners, or employees. Past performance is not indicative of future results.